you smell what The Rock is cooking?
Acknowledge me.
You don't know what hard times are, Daddy.
We are bad to the bone. Get it? Bad to the bone.
Tell me when I'm telling lies.
I'll fight anybody who do you want. Just let me fight him.
Let me tell you something, Jim Ross.
Mega power, yeah.
We got it for you.
We are the best of the best.
Woo! Wheeling dealing. Smart marks.
And that's the bottom line, cause Stone Cold said so.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Talk 'em in the Building. My name is Greg. This is my compadres, Adelaide, Adrian, and this is a podcast where we only talk about the promo. We talk about the talkers, we hype the hype men, and pontificate on the promo. See, guys, I got it right that time.
Good job, bro.
I'm gonna come over here to the ATL. Adrian, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. Feeling good. I'm excited about this episode. Once I saw the title, I was locked in, man.
Nice.
I'm about to relive some things, I'm sure.
Nice. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're going back in time a little bit. Adelaide, how you feeling?
I'm great. I'm excited because, man, I got some good memories from those years. The wars and, little known fact, I really loved all that Broadman stuff when he was doing with Late Night and jail. Man, I was locked in with that stuff, man.
Yeah, so I'm sure you guys are going like, what are y'all talking about? What are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to go back and revisit some of WCW. And now, one big thing, I grew up here in Atlanta. I was always NWA. I was always WCW through and through. Yes, I watched WWE. Yes, my favorite wrestlers were in WWE as well. But y'all, I was in the Omni every single month. No lie. My mom would drop me off at MARTA, and I would ride MARTA down there. MARTA is our little subway system. I'd call her and say, hey, Mom, I'm on my way back, and I'd come back. So each and every month, and down in the Omni all the way through. I mean, whether it was in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, watching WCW, all the way to the end. So recently, and I know I told you guys this, but I got to share this with everybody. I read, or shall we say listened to on Audible, Nitro, The Incredible Rise and Inevitable Collapse of Ted Turner's WCW by Guy Evans. If you haven't heard of this book, Eric Bischoff hyped it forever on 83 Weeks. And I was like, hey, I need to go listen to this thing. I finally got an Audible subscription. I went out there and listened to it. Y'all, you want to talk about going back in time? It goes back to when Ted took over, talks to everybody from the beginning of Nitro all the way to the end. It's an amazing story. It truly is, because he dives into a lot of the stuff that was taking place behind the scenes within, whether it was Turner, how Ted defended WCW and how he said it's never going to go away, to the Time Warner takeover, to the AOL takeover. Even digs into a lot of that outside of just the WCW part. A lot of the AOL Time Warner merger, how it happened, how Time Warner almost backed out of it, the whole how they were going to sell it. And I didn't know there's a lot of conspiracy theories behind it. Like even down to the fact that allegedly that I think it was Brad Siegel allegedly blocked the sale, found a way to get WCW off the air so the others would not buy it, to set it up for WWE to buy. Wow. It was very interesting that his college roommate was involved in that sale. So, and he denies it, but there's all kinds of wild stuff behind it. It's like, oh, wow. Didn't know that Eric Bischoff and his group were actually shopping it during that same time frame to Fox.
That's right.
And how that got blocked by somebody else. So a bunch of little things in there. And of course, into the Russo era. So tonight, we're going to look at some promos from the Russo era, or era, however you want to look at it. Do you guys remember? So I just want to take you guys back. So go back. So I will say this. I agree with Eric on this one. We talk about the Attitude Era. We talk about how great the Attitude Era was. And I heard Bischoff say, I hate that it's called the Attitude Era. It's the Nitro Era. Because without Nitro, none of this happens. And Tell me where the lie is in that.
It's hard to debate that, man.
There's none. Nitro, a lot of people think about the 83 weeks that they won, but Nitro was winning and close to winning from day one.
Mm.
And if you actually go back and look at the Nitro ratings and WWE ratings back then and compare them to WCW Saturday Night prior to Nitro, they weren't that far off either.
Interesting.
It was very competitive. The difference was, of course, the money that's being generated on the back end, the house shows, the pay-per-views, and translating those ratings into buys. That was a big difference. But the ratings, neck and neck, actually. It was very interesting to hear that part. But we're going to jump into that. But real quick, out of lead, I'm not sure how much you were watching back then, but during that time frame when Russo and Era were coming in, do you remember that time and what was your reaction when you first heard that these writers and these creative team members from WWE were coming into WCW? What were going through your mind?
It was shocking. It was shocking because up until then, for anyone, that's been watching long enough, I mean, look, at least I was calling, like, even using like the phone to get results for like some TV shows, right? It was that time. It was this weird era where the internet was kind of coming into its own. And I remember I used to call it was like a movie guide line, and the guy was a wrestling fan, and he would give you results from wrestling. It was weird.
Nice.
It was weird. And obviously it was like pre-tape results that hadn't aired before and whatnot. So it's this kind of era. So then you have essentially creative writing staff, which in the intro I mentioned, I loved when they did eventually later when they did Rodman comes in and it's the peak of the finals and it's Karl Malone and it's late night and they're using that and to its fullest effect. It was as a preteen teenager, that was amazing to me. That was fun because I love late night TV, right? So I knew, hey, I know late night has a writing staff. These are not just comedians going up there writing for their own. And that was kind of cutting the veil down. What was shocking to me is like now there's an acknowledgement because up until then, Vince he's end all be all, right? We knew from Beyond the Mat there is writers. There's like we do see Vince Russo there, but to see them become players unashamedly was very jarring. Cool, right? Because it's almost like they're letting us in, but as we know, that was detrimental in the long term, right? But if I take that away, just in that moment, just taking transport, let's go back in time. I just had a real deep curiosity because I didn't know where it was. I don't know, and especially at my age, I was just watching wrestling to have fun. I wasn't thinking about backstage politics and writings and this and that. And I was like, I just want to see something cool on TV, right? I want to see somebody get jacked up. So that was my perspective on the time. Hindsight being 2020, you can argue its results, right? Without getting too much into the weeds.
True.
Adrian, when you first saw Russo, I say saw, he wasn't a TV character at first, but him and Ed coming in, how are you feeling?
Well, to be honest, man, I like Adelie said, I was just in it for the vibes. I was just in it for the product. I didn't know anything about the backstage stuff. I honestly didn't know about the writers until I was in high school because one of our teachers, Mr. Mansour, I used to call him Mansour to piss him off. But he introduced me and my buddies to Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer. And he was a subscriber, he had his newsletter. He used to get them. And when he was done with them, he would give it to us. And he would always talk wrestling to us. Cool dude. In fact, me and my buddy were talking a couple days ago. Like, we wonder if Mr. Mansour is still walking around, man. Because, he reminds me of Dave Meltzer the more and more I think about it. But anyway, I didn't know anything about the writers until that. So that was around 2000. That was during that moment, and that was toward the end of WCW. So I didn't get the full feeling of, oh, this is Russo writing and this is his lead. I will say this about Russo and his time at WCW. They definitely push pro wrestling into the next era, the next stratosphere. Vince had a difficult time adjusting to society. If you're looking at that 80s, WWF was definitely a part of American culture. Like, they were right there. It's the rise of Hulkamania, Macho Man, all these larger than life characters. Society was locked in with that, especially with the rock and roll connection there. And we've talked about that in previous episodes that y'all should check out. But once we got into those 90s and closer toward the 2000s, WWF, and it's been long reported and long talked about, they had a really difficult time adjusting to the change in society, adjusting to the fact that more of us knew insider stuff, and they had a difficult time. It wasn't until WCW was waxing their tail for that duration that they had to make those changes. So
True.
Vince was a major part of that. And I know wrestling fans are very divisive about the guy, but I have an appreciation for what he did. I have an appreciation for his insight, even though a lot of the time, if you listen to him now, he's just crapping on everything. He's entitled to it. He was in the business. He was very successful. Even though I don't have to agree with everything he says, he's absolutely entitled to his professional opinion because he was a giant. So
Interesting. Yeah, I agree. I think at that time, I still never read the dirt sheets per se, but my daily reading was onewrestling.com. And
I remember that. Yeah.
that was my biggest one. I loved it. Bob Ryder, I think, started it. And it was just, it kind of gathered information from other places, but so I was aware that, that there was a creative team. But I remember when they were first coming in, and I was like, whoa, this is big. Like, man, this could be huge. And then really my first things I thought was cool was when they did the powers that be angle, where you kind of just saw them from the background, kind of like Seinfeld and Steinbrenner. You never saw their faces, and they were just kind of coming in, and they would, their talent would come in, like, you kind of, giving their case, right? And I was like, this could be interesting. Then it kind of went off the rails, but I mean, it was like, what in the world? But yeah, it was just wild. But what's interesting, and I didn't know this at the time, I didn't know who Vince Russo was, didn't know who Ed Ferrara was, or any of that. But I used to watch Livewire. I don't know if you guys remember that show. It used to come in on Saturday mornings. One of those hosts was Vic Venom, who was the editor in chief of WWE Magazine, i.e., Vince Russo. And so I remember the first time seeing him on TV, I'm like, wait, I swear that's the dude that was on Livewire when Paul Heyman called in. So, yeah, that was my first thought, like, whoa. And I remember going back trying to find that. So, yeah, that was wild to me. But, here's what's crazy. I'm listening to this book. I guess we call it listening to the book, reading the book, whatever it is.
Right.
And he started in October. You realize he was asked to step down in January. 4 months. 4 months in.
Really?
Yes.
Yikes.
And then they stepped down and they kind of back and forth some stuff. But in his basically he was there for about a year total. In that 1 year, in his time in creative or whatever, take a wild guess. I'm going to come to you out of lead first. How many times do you think the WCW World Heavyweight Championship changed hands?
Man,
Under
I'm
his
really going to
direction.
throw in there. That's about what he said, 4 months, 5 months, give or take?
No, give him close to a year. Under
overall.
just under his
Okay,
direction.
over the full year, not just the time that he was done. 10 times.
Okay. 8, which is a lot.
I'm gonna say the over.
Over.
Yeah.
20.
Oh,
20 times.
Did that include Arquette?
WCW includes Arquette, includes
Jeez.
himself.
yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Includes Booker. So you think about this. Booker didn't win it until that Bash at the Beach. I didn't think about this.
Oh,
He didn't win it
man.
until that Bash at the Beach where Jeff Jarrett laid down, which was what, 2000? They went out of business in 2001.
That's right.
And Booker, when he left, was 5-time champion.
That's true.
That's crazy.
That's wild.
Like, that's just like as reliving it from that perspective, because just back then I've never gone back and really watched any of that stuff, but it's like in the moment you're like, it's all right, or this is good, or that's bad. And being a WCW fan, I was like always pulling for them because they were the underdog for so long. You pull for them and pull for them, and it was like, man, there's times I remember going, this just sucks, y'all. This is just bad. I mean, yeah, I mean, but again, going back to the book, and I encourage anybody to go listen to this book, hearing the behind the scenes stuff and the struggles with standards and practices, and I've heard Bischoff talk about it on his podcast before, but hearing the different because they don't talk all positive about Bischoff either. Don't get it twisted, and which I thought was interesting because Bischoff pushed this book over big time, and they blast him a few times. But just hearing all the stuff behind the scenes and how they moved Ted out of his role and how people hated WCW and just really wanted it gone for so long and all kinds of wild stuff. It's just crazy. But so we're gonna jump into a few promos. I brought a couple of them, just to kind of give you a synopsis. And this is one big thing. I did not want to come in here and just blast the whole time. So this is not, bringing in promos that were just, oh my God, I remember this one, or oh, I remember that one. It was just so bad. That's not the goal of this. This is the goal of kind of giving you a snapshot in time of this approximately 12 months. Most of this is from 2000 WCW, and what a crazy world it was.
Keep the roll right on going, because I'm going to not necessarily, I'm Rey Mysterio. What the hell is going on here? I'm going to take them if they try to get in my way. What the? I don't. Wait a minute. Hey, what?
Yeah. The filthy animals are throwing eggs at Jarrett.
They're egging the chosen one.
For Jeff Jarrett. Filthy animals, I almost soiled myself after what you guys did to Jeff Jarrett. But on the other hand, you, Rey Mysterio, are going to have to get into the ring tonight with Jeff Jarrett.
Was that Jeff Jarrett me? We thought it was Gomer Pyle. Well, you know what, Jeff, Gomer, whatever you want to call yourself, it's all the same crap. This is what I'm going to do to you tonight. I'm going to take off my horns and shove them right.
Hey, wait a minute.
We don't need no more heat with standards and practices, but I got a question. Yo, Billy, what do you think about Jeff's personality?
Well, I kind of...
That's what I thought. Hey, Country Cranberry, king of public access TV. You talk about having all this personality. Maybe you would if somebody turned you towards the light and watered you periodically. Tonight it's going to get filthy. Orale.
That was a lot.
So starting off with
He's starting on
the last outlaw, if you will, Jeff Jarrett, Mean Gene, God rest his soul, jumping into the filthy animals and a young Rey Mysterio with no mask. Out of lead. I'm coming to you because I know what kind of a luchador fan you are. So there's your favorite luchador, everybody's favorite luchador, but not a luchador because he doesn't have a mask on. So what do you think about that promo?
I mean, that encapsulates, you just said it, right? The fact that Rey doesn't have a mask was an international incident at the time, right? Because he had to you don't get the mask back. You just don't. And yet here he is, and we know he's having the time of his life because he's getting paid, he's getting airtime, and here's the sinking ship, right? Because he was on some kind of guaranteed contract. He didn't show him about WWE till years later. So I just see guys who are legitimately having a good time. Money's great.
That's it.
And they don't really care what the hell's on the air. Because even Mean Gene's probably getting paid, man. And what struck me the most is like now with again hindsight is like we see Conan as a like elder statesman, and he's a booker in Mexico. Ray's had a career resurgence. The knee the knees are great now. Kidman worked backstage, but right now these are just dudes who are trying to get TV time. They have this hot group because let's be real, this was a cool faction. Filthy Animals was dope, man. I mean, he was like the cool heels of cool heels. They weren't even heels anymore, and they were playing up the fashion. I mean, here's Ray coming up with his shirtless overalls, looking like a cool guy over here, and can never get past his voice. Sorry, Ray.
Right.
And it was always super jarring, but it's fun. I'll give him that, but it's weird because again, I never thought at the time like, yeah, in 20 years Jeff Jarrett's going to be in a program as the elder statesman somewhere, and Conan's going to be like the luchador godfather, so to speak, to the US. It kind of speaks to just what this was, which ultimately it was throwaway segment. It wasn't. I don't think it really had a great payoff or anything like that. But I don't know. It kind of tarnishes Mean Gene's legacy. But honestly, I don't think Mean Gene gave a damn because he's probably making just as much money as anybody else.
That's it.
Adrian, what do you think about that promo?
Well, I just love seeing Ray. That version of Ray was always hilarious to me. He was just a pretty boy talking trash, but half of it was just silliness. Like it was just like, dude, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? But I always loved that. He was like a no limit soldier at one point too.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So this is just like you said. They're just having fun, and I don't think enough people give Conan the props that he deserves because he was, as a talker, he's one of the best. He was one of the best of that time, and not many modern wrestling fans even bring that guy up. I think more people should show love and show respect to that man, even if you don't agree with his takes on your favorite wrestling promotion.
Yeah, watching that, I was like, the egg thing was stupid to me.
Yes.
I mean, egging, whatever. Obviously, the key for that was to set up the Jeff Jarrett Rey Mysterio match, but the star was Conan.
Yep.
I mean, Ray was, I don't know what he was talking about.
Said some nonsense, right? Just
Billy
nonsense.
Kidman couldn't cut a promo for nothing in the world. And then what's funny to me is if you've ever heard Billy talk, and then to hear Conan talk about Country Bumpkin, I'm like, hello, have you heard Billy talk? So, which is why Billy said nothing and just went, and which was corny. But what stood out to me is not just Conan's delivering his talking. I agree, he's so underrated, underappreciated. I'm not gonna say underrated, underappreciated.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when he hit his little catchphrase at the end, if you listen, the crowd popped. So no matter the fact that we're sitting in a stage right now where WCW is way down, ratings are way down. By the way, y'all, the ratings are still better than they are today. However, they were way down. They were still pulling like 2 3s, 2 4s, 2 5s, and companies today would kill for that rating. But and I know it's changed, so let's not go get in that argument. But at the end of the day, Conan hit that little line. You hear the people sing along with him in the background, and I'm like, yo, dude was over. Conan was the cool kid. Conan was the reason that the Wolfpack was over. Conan was the reason that the Filthy Animals was over. And I'll put that all day. I'll argue it all day. I'll argue it with LAX, and I'll argue it with the 3 Live Crew.
Yeah.
Without Conan, none of those groups were as over as they were. And so, yeah, totally, I agree. But that's one of the things that stood out to me in that promo. I love seeing Jeff Jarrett because at that point, he had the slap nuts on the guitar, and all of us wanted to see him smack somebody with that guitar, man. I don't care. More so than Honky Tonk, man. I love seeing him like Jack Beetlejuice and all those different people with
Oh my gosh, that's right.
He was killing folks with that guitar. All right, so we're going to jump to another one. This one, I just let it speak for itself.
Yes.
blood out here in the broadcast position, hiding broadcast in the ring with the baseball bat.
Do you blame them? I mean, they might want to get under this broadcast table.
And Vince Russo out now.
Look how far he's keeping his distance.
Finally, Kevin, alone at last. You know what, Kev? I got your message for Monday night, and I'm standing right here. But Kevin, I got to ask you a question. How many brain cells have you burnt over the years, Kevin? Because I'm going to throw a couple of names at you, Kev. How about Vinny Vegas, Kev? How about Oz, Kev? When you were Big Daddy Cool in the WWF, Kevin, who really put the cool in Big Daddy Cool? You or me? But Kevin, don't worry, because I'll tell you one thing, my boy. Russo will make Nash cool again, baby.
What does that mean?
Now what?
The red
Come and get some, big boy.
The red comes out of the ceiling, over the back of Kevin Nash, all over the arena.
The new blood strikes again.
The new
Dress
blood.
it up.
And Nash is walking slowly, drenched in the red.
Kevin Nash in pursuit of Vince Russo and the new blood.
And when he finds him, they'll look worse than Nash does right now.
He's stalking Vince Russo.
Well, wow. Adrian, what you think about the new blood and the Millionaires Club and Vince Russo dropping the new blood on old Kevin?
Yeah, on old Kevin, on his back. Well, this reiterates the importance of production meetings, and yeah, man, like planning always helps, fellas. We can't just have up an idea and not try it out and test it out, and that's part of the issue. Well, the segment kind of sucked anyway without the blood. I'll be honest. Bringing up WWF was on point with what they were doing at that time. At that point of the war, they were just clearly mentioning the competition, which, as we've all come to learn, is probably not your best bet if you're trying to truly compete. And I don't know, man. Like, what at this point was Vince actually wrestling? Like, what was the deal at that point?
So at this point, Bischoff had come back as well. So this is during I believe during the New Blood and Millionaires Club type piece. Not so much the Filthy Animals, but more of that whole New Blood thing.
Because the only reason why I ask that is I get him trying to dress down Big Kev because, you know, he's one of your top stars there. But, like, what's truly the payoff? That's really my question. That's why I was asking, does he wrestle? Because, obviously, if you're going to do all that, I at least want to see you get your tail kicked at the end of the month, you know? That's why I was asking. But at that point, I was tapped out of WCW.
Yeah, Ali, what do you think about the lack of blood that hit old Kevin?
I mean, all I'm thinking too is like, here's two bookers, right? Kevin was out there. Kevin did enough booking right after Dusty, right around. I mean, everybody had their run. I can't help but just not get his voice out of my head. I mean, I just go back to Beyond the Mat when he's trying to hype up Sable and it's like, you gotta sell it, brother, or like bro, whatever he says. I think it's such a kind of element of its time. Kind of Adrian's point is nowadays, I mean, we were kind of gushing over the fact that on WWE TV, they mentioned that Pentagon was a Lucha Underground champion. We're like, oh my gosh! I'm like, even though it's like a defunct promotion or anything, but less is more. If you're gonna constantly reference past gimmicks, past failures, whatever it is, right? It takes me out. It takes me out of the legitimacy of what you're trying to establish, and it doesn't make me want to watch. I mean, we've talked about this. It's funny because pro wrestling, we watch it for the wrestling, but it's almost secondary to the storytelling, right? It's like if the storytelling isn't a foundation, you could be as 5-star match. I could care less about it, right? It's a cool one-off, right? But I'm not going to be invested week to week. And this is TV. When TV was still TV, let's call it what it is, right? The internet is not it. Shane didn't have the success of making Vince make ECW a streaming show, right? This is still for ratings. And if you're on a dying ship or a near dying ship, and this is the best you've got because you're still trying to compete on this kind of edgy, we're going to be anarchist and, anti-authority, it just doesn't work anymore. It worked prior, maybe a couple years prior, but that identity isn't sustainable, right? That identity isn't going to keep you long term because I don't care about Vince Russo. I don't know who he is. He's not a wrestler. He's not a real figurehead. He's not a former wrestler that becomes like a coach or a manager of whatnot. We know who he is, so there's no threat. These are all empty threats that he's saying. And to Adrian's point is like, if there's no payoff, I'm gonna watch because I'm a wrestling fan, right? We're all wrestling fans. We're predisposed, but the people that you're trying to get, the average fan, the lapsed fan, the person that just clicking through the channels, they didn't stick around because there was nothing to stick around for. None of this makes the other person shine, right? None of this elevates anybody. This is the biggest impression I got from this promo. Dang, Conan's jacked.
True.
Why? He should have made a move. He should have run in there.
Well, here's the thing about this promo, and I didn't show this first. So the new blood was in the ring, and I don't know what happened before that, but Kevin comes out and clears the ring. So first off, Kevin cleared the ring by himself,
right?
of Hoovy and
right,
Conan and these other guys. Why? Why did
exactly?
It's like I don't know who the babies are and who's not because the Millionaires Club was kind of supposed to be, I don't know, whatever. And then here comes Russo with his Iron Man theme, and then he cuts a promo that makes no sense to me. Like why? Yeah. I got something to say. Vinny Vegas and Oz. Okay, who cares? The only thing about the Big Daddy Cool thing was who put the cool in it, you or me. Okay, I'll give you that because who wrote it. But we're already past that because now Kevin Nash is a bigger star as Kevin Nash. Him and Hall are the only ones, in my opinion, that left WWE and became bigger. Like totally became a bigger character than they were. And he was a much bigger star as Kevin Nash than he ever was as Diesel. And then he tries to drop the blood. You know what I thought about when that blood dropped?
What was that?
Those poor people in the front row, I bet, got hit.
Oh shit! Yeah, now that you say that,
because it did not hit the center of the ring at all. I'm like, and then Kevin's reaction. You can see he's trying not to laugh.
Right.
He just looks down like you. Oh my gosh! Like,
he knows this is bad. Like
just
instantly,
just pitiful.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just saying it was just a synopsis of that time. It was a total synopsis of the Russo era.
Yeah. I'm gonna liken it to a modern example. It's not perfect, so just kind of bear with me and bear with me, listeners. I'm gonna come around. I talk too much, but I get it. Modern Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? Your first 10 years are planned out. Iron Man, everything else that came after, they even retcon a bunch of stuff to make it fit, right? So even if you have some bad plays in there, right, some bad shows, if you got the right idea, the right Bible going forward, so to speak, you can make it work, right? This is Marvel in its more recent later years.
Yeah.
Where you got way too many cooks in the kitchen. You got some players there that unfortunately just circumstance they were set up to be something big. Kang never happened, right? That whole arc that couldn't happen. And now you got an audience who is not invested in the product, is not invested in the long-term storyline, and box office is down. You're getting some similarities here, right? And ultimately, look, Marvel's never going to run out of business. It's Disney, blah blah blah. But here's the thing: is once it wasn't, and look, and we're talking about a time too, where this is the difference between the example I gave you. We're talking at a time where wrestling is still seen as passé. It's still seen as not good entertainment and not profitable entertainment to advertisers, right? So if you're an advertiser, if you're a big time advertiser, and this is what you see on your TV, and your commercial comes on next, are you really going to sign a long-term contract the next year to advertise Snickers or whatever the hell you were doing?
Yeah, I agree. Adrian, you got anything else on this one?
Nah, man, that was pretty bad, man. Pretty bad. That was Thunder, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you thought that was bad?
It's the worst.
Just hang tight. I got another one. This is not traditional promo, but there's no way I couldn't bring it.
This guy,
Oh,
he's got the stick.
Yikes!
He has got the stick. Pinata. Who's that? Hoovy? Is that Hoovy?
Yeah.
Hoovy.
Yeah, I think
Hoovy. Pinata. Oh, and he's down. Moving to Guerrero, one of the great defensive linemen from Tijuana State.
Oh, baloney.
Tijuana State University.
Baloney. Nobody cares about those
flapjack.
stats. Nobody cares about those stats.
What? Everybody loves football, son.
You know all about football.
I know everything there is about football. I've done everything in this business.
Yeah,
I've been a referee. I've set up rings. I've negotiated talent.
Burn bridges, yeah.
I've been the greatest. I'm the greatest play-by-play man there's ever
You gotta have a thick skin in that business, man.
I figure that's enough.
Yeah, you gotta have a thick skin. That's all I'm getting at right now.
Yeah, that's tough.
Oh,
man.
I can't wait
That's
to see
tough.
my reaction. So, Adrian, what you think about that one?
Man, that was rough, man. That was rough. And once you get to the context of how he was essentially making fun of a struggle of JR physically, it's even more nasty, man. It's even more nasty. Like, I get the ribs, and it's not like that was the first time someone was impersonating another person over there. Like, we've seen it before. We all remember the Nacho Man. We all remember that stuff, right? But this didn't seem lighthearted. It really did seem. Like I said, it seemed nasty, man. It was like, come on, man. Why are we even doing that, man? Like, who are we doing this for?
Yeah, Ali, what do you think?
That's gross. I mean, you can use any adjective you want to describe it, but ultimately, again, we're living far removed from this, and we know the struggles, and but even at the time, I can't imagine that on the boards or whoever was watching that had, because they're clearly speaking to an audience that they expect to have this inside knowledge, right? That is reading the dirt sheets, that is reading the Meltzer, that is reading OneWrestling.com, right? And that's the expectation, that they can have this dialogue with the audience, like, hey, yeah, let's stick it to them, because the impression they're giving is JR thinks very highly of himself, and he was once here, and he's not, and he's fair game because he's on the other side, right? And he's not just on the other side as an on-screen performer; he's head of talent for the other side, right? So again, I go back to that point that my initial reaction is: you have to have a very thick skin in this business, and as thick and as much as JR has gone through, you got to believe this sucks. Like, no matter like who you are, like you want your business, and then the whole facial thing, knowing again what he's going through. That's just in poor taste. And if I'm watching at the time, I'm like, I'm like, what is this? Like, I mean, look, Vince is the same thing, not to that level of complete impersonation, right? But he had that segment too. And regardless of the side, I think there's just, as a human being, I think there's just lines that you're like, I'm here to escape reality. I don't really need this. Whatever, workplace workplace angst y'all got going on, I ain't come to see that here. I come to enjoy myself. And once it crosses that line, it just doesn't become enjoyable anymore.
Yeah, the reason I say I couldn't wait to give you my reaction. I couldn't stand the facial piece. I thought that was just totally over the line. Everything else is fair game. It is what it is. They made fun of Vince. Vince made fun of them.
Right.
It happens to this day. TK makes fun of people. I mean, everybody does, right?
Right.
But the funny thing about listening to this now, to me, I hadn't heard this in forever. I swear to you, it's like listening to his podcast. He has signed everybody. He's done everything. And every time I listen to his freaking podcast, it's like, I signed John Cena and I signed this. And he's responsible for everything. And I'm like, holy crap, listening to that just then. It's exactly what Ed Ferreira just said.
Oh, wow. So that was low key, like that was JR's personality.
100%, bro. That's why I'm like, I can't listen to his podcast because he's like, he thinks so
Just putting
highly of
himself over
himself.
the whole
Oh
time.
my God, he puts himself over so much. He found the Hardys, he found Rock, he found Cena, he found Orton, he found Brock, he found, I mean, every single person he ever signed. I mean, how he just put his neck out for Foley and how he put his neck out for Mark Calloway and all these other people, right? And how he brokered the
brought back
deal
Stone
to,
Cold.
oh my God. And all this stuff and how he puts himself over so much. So listening to that when he's talking about, I'm sorry, I did pop when he said Hoovy was a great linebacker at Tijuana State. That was
Tijuana
hilarious.
State.
That was funny. And then, but when he said that about the talent, and right after that he starts talking about how great his barbecue is and all this type of stuff. It's just like, yeah, that's him. I mean, I'm sorry. I like I said, I hated the whole facial piece.
Right,
And to
right.
this
That's
day, I
all
think that's
that
just
threw
over
me.
the line.
Yeah, for sure.
I did think it was. I thought it was funny back then when they got Dr. Death into it. I was like, seriously, like for real? What did they pay this dude for that? But it shouldn't get his ass beaten the brawl for all. But at the end of the day, but I was just like, man, that's just another synopsis. What's interesting about that? They do bring that up in the book.
Oh, really?
And they had
What
talked
did
to
they say in the
Russo. They talked that Russo said, he goes, it was a big deal. And I didn't go back to look for it, but he said, it became a big deal when we did it in WCW, but we had already done it in WWE.
Yeah.
Against, no, he's talking about, with this same character.
Oh
with Jim
yeah,
Ross.
no, for sure. Yeah, you did. True.
And
Yeah,
he goes, he goes, and everybody thought it was funny. He goes, Vince thought it was funny. JR was JR. He was kind of like, everybody popped for. Everybody thought it was funny when we did it in WWE to JR, but then we do it in WCW, and now we've all crossed the line. I'm like, yeah, but you didn't do the facial thing. Let's call it what it is, right? That to me, I think, is where everybody looked at you crossed the line.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So I have two more I want to play, so I'm gonna play this next one. So we're gonna spit it back a little bit more positive.
The Stinger is back. Of course, did you think I would miss tonight? For nothing would I miss this night. This is an historic night. One more dance with the Nature Boy, Rick. We started it years ago, Rick, and tonight we're going to end it once and for all. And for all you fans out there who are wondering what the future holds for Sting, well, the only thing for sure about Sting is nothing's for sure. It's showtime, folks!
The last ever Nitro, setting up his match that they closed out Nitro with him versus Ric Flair. So, Adrian, what did you think about that last promo from Sting in WCW?
Were those bats in the background?
Yeah.
Like hanging bats?
Yeah.
Huh. It's an interesting aesthetic there. Just to have bats just hanging around. But Sting was the baby face of WCW. He was the main character, especially at that time. They went out like they should have. They went out with arguably the two biggest stars that they had currently going on, and the rivalry dates way before any of that madness, any of Russo or any of that. Who better to end out that show to go on that note of Flair and Sting? That's one of the best rivalries. That's something that we would probably argue. I mean, hell, AEW almost booked Flair and Sting.
Right.
So, not to say that that's a good thing, but that just speaks to that rivalry. That just speaks to the rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Adelaide, what you think about that promo?
I mean, honestly, there's not a lot to think. It's nostalgic. It's sad. It just makes me think of what could have been in an ideal world, right? Not in a business world, because it just wasn't meant to be. We know Sting had talks after the fact, and again, sticking to the promo, let me talk about that first. The promo was great. I mean, this is still prime Sting. Look,
Definitely.
I mean, we could call him dead after the fact, TNA and everything else that happened after that. And look, even that AEW one was so cool. Like, let's call a spade a spade. But if you take this prime Sting and give him beyond that final match, and he takes some good, decent money contract and validates the contract he had with WCW and doesn't just sit at home. But unfortunately, that litmus test with Booker T not being seen as an equal to Rock during that run and getting buried, that was the determining factor why he didn't sign with WWE. It would have been so cool, and it makes me think of all the kind of matches we could have seen with him, with Goldberg, and everybody who was just on big money contracts that just never happened. And he was the one that got away. I mean, I understand that Vince didn't want to sign anybody because these were huge guaranteed contracts that he himself said, he couldn't match, or he just didn't want to match. But if I had to choose the one guy he could have signed and should have signed, here he is. I mean, we got that Sting Undertaker match so much down the line. It was watered down. It became de facto WCW burial. I don't know. It makes me think that there's such cool things could have happened, whatever the merger would have looked like. But I would have loved to see have Sting just have this career success on that level and not be relegated by his own choosing. Obviously,
For sure.
he's gone out, which is really cool. He's gone out on his own terms ultimately, which is super, super awesome and commendable. But the fan in me is still like, man, what could have been, right? Just take this and just change the damn logo to WWF.
Yeah. One thing about this promo to me is this was iconic Sting.
Yeah.
This was, I mean, you talked about the bats, but I love the bats in there because at that time, you remember he used to carry the bat all the time. So having those kind of hanging around, him grabbing one out and just talking. Sting was always good in that short, quick, energetic promo. He seemed happy. He seemed, because during this time frame, I think he was still kind of going through some things. He seemed genuinely happy to be there. And I can remember during that time frame, the stars weren't coming out. You weren't seeing Flair. If you remember, Flair wrestled in a shirt because he was out of shape. Didn't even want to wrestle. Sting wasn't there. Goldberg wasn't there. A lot of guys weren't showing up. And this was something that was like that short, quick synopsis of a Sting promo was, to me, was just perfect for that night. And that promo could still work. Like that promo just dropped wherever would still work.
Totally.
So it wasn't, to me, it wasn't just nostalgia because we're looking back at it, but it's like I could have taken that and put it at Starrcade. I could have taken that and put it at Halloween Havoc. I could have taken that and put it at Bash at the Beach or WrestleMania or wherever. And that promo works because of his delivery, his style, whether it was Surfer Sting, Crow Sting, whatever, it just worked. And I think that's a synopsis of how good Sting is and was. But I agree. I mean, what could have been with him? Man. My fantasy booking, and I'll share this really quick, was a few years ago when Taker had beaten somebody, and I wanted him to come out that next night and just say, I'm retiring. Like, come out and say, I've beaten everybody. there's nobody left for me to beat. And I forgot who he beaten at Mania the night before. And I just wanted him to say, so tonight I'm going to call it. I'm done. I've beaten everybody in this business. And I wanted the lights to go out and one spotlight on Sting in the rafters.
Oh, that
And
would have
him
been
just
crazy.
point to him
Dang.
and have a full year build.
Woo.
One full year build. And that would be the end of the show. Like nothing else. No nothing. But
Mm-hmm.
just Sting point at him with that bat. And I was like, oh man, if you could just do that, dude, people would have lost their minds for a year. You don't have to touch it for the next 3 months. You just keep it there. I was like, man, that would have just been awesome to me.
But you know what the fun thing is now? Is we're gonna see that now. We're gonna see that in the future. That's not gonna be an impossibility.
No, I agree. For sure. All right, so one last one, very short, but to me, I really enjoyed this one, and I'll tell you why afterwards. But it's quick, but it's the end of my childhood. I'll call it what it is. It's the end of my fandom, the end of WCW. And I mean, watching it today, I'm not gonna lie, a little bit sad about it. I mean, I don't really remember a whole lot of it, but it's a little bit sad.
Oh my gosh, I know this. Oh gosh, I watched this live too.
Forever and a day. WCW gone, worldwide gone. We want to thank you for joining us each and every week here on WCW, bringing these shows and good time. For Mike today, I'm Scott Hudson. We'll see you down the road somewhere else. Thanks for watching Worldwide.
I love the fact that he put these names in.
Yeah.
Just watching that kind of gives you that nostalgic, like, man, they're signing off. You can feel it off of them. You can see it in Mike Tenay's face. You can just see it in his face. Knowing that Scott Hudson goes on to do some stuff with TNA and does a lot of still, to this day, local stuff around here. Mike Tenay, of course, going to TNA and doing big things. I mean, I wish he was still around. I mean, he added so much. To me, he added a lot to Nitro. I mean, without him, the cruiserweights, I don't know, get elevated to the level they do because Bischoff brought him in for that reason. He had the knowledge. He knew it, right? They call him the professor for a reason. And then I just love the fact that kind of when you think that the crew and all that kind of stuff from WCW Worldwide, that they rolled the credits with those nicknames and all that stuff. I thought that was pretty cool. Idly, what did that make you feel?
Right. Yeah.
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 That was awesome. Man, I got goosebumps, like legit. I watched this live, and I'm thinking about I'm 16 years old, and I remember Worldwide being real consistent for me because it was on free TV. In LA, it was free TV. It was on over the air, just rabbit ears. You didn't need cable. You didn't need anything special. And a lot of times when I couldn't catch Nitro or whatever, like, or anything like that, this was like, it was a recap show, right? It was a lot of like, this is highlights. This is what happened last week or in the span of a week. So I got to know them as co-hosts. I got to know the segments. I got to know kind of, it was a real cool studio show. WWF did. Everybody had their version of it. Worldwide, we're going to sign off on Worldwide. But it was so unique because you can tell that this was the end, right? Just in the sign off and in the production. And I'm sitting there watching it, and it kind of hit me because we knew it was done. And by that point, that Monday night, Shane had already done the transition, and they did the simulcast and everything. But this was the last true WCW production. If you think about it, it wasn't, because everything else already had a WWF hand or WWE hand in it. This was still. I'm gonna, I don't know, maybe you can educate me, Greg, but I don't think anybody had to say, anybody in WWE had to say. I think this was the last pure production that WCW did it lastly on their own. And it showed because for all it's worth, they still treated it like another Worldwide until the very end, right? It was still the recap show, and they didn't mince words, and they said it as it was. But that last piece where the credits just ran long on this one, I remember sitting there like, oh, this is real. Like this is it. And then you sign off with that WCW logo, and you're like, that's an end of an
Sort of.
era, not just of WCW, but just the lineage
Yeah.
through that. And that it was scary at the time because I'm like, as happy as I was at, as a pro wrestling fan, I'm like, this is weird. This is just
Yeah.
real weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Now it kind of reminds me, like my background is in restaurants. So one thing about the restaurant industry, it's not guaranteed. It could be one decision, one pandemic, multiple things that can eventually be the end of your business. And there's so many lives affected.
Mm.
And I thank God I've never been a part of a restaurant that is closed under my leadership or whatnot, but I have peers that have experienced that. And it's one thing that's really heartbreaking when you go to the last service.
Mm.
And those employees, there's so many employees that dedicate their lives to just having this thing going and being told like, yo, I'm sorry, but we got to close tomorrow, or this is the last service this evening. And that's one shady thing about the business, at least restaurants, I will say, that a lot of these owners, they'll close that night, not tell employees, because of course, if an employee knows that the restaurant's about to close,
Mm-hmm.
let me go get my other job. Let me go do this. Screw that. So they wait till the last second. So it's just one of those things where it's really one of those sad moments of going to a restaurant's final service, thinking about all those people affected. And that's why I did enjoy that segment. This is my first time ever seeing that, where they spent that extra time to show all those names, to show nicknames, to show how much of a family we are, right? That appreciation. This may be our last opportunity to at least show you guys we appreciated those times. And it just kind of reminded me, it wasn't nostalgic for me because I didn't watch it, but it was nostalgic in the sense of my friends working at restaurants that are closing. They find out that night, and I get a text like, "Hey, man, last go around, and I'm drinking up all the rum." That's about it, that sort of thing. So that's just the feelings I get from that segment.
So let me put some things in perspective about WCW. And I looked this up earlier. Raw's been on TV since 1993. So 30 years, 31 years, almost 32.
32.
So when WCW went out of business in 2001, that was their 30th year on TBS.
Wow.
Of a lineage show. That includes Georgia Championship Wrestling, which was NWA, which turns into World Championship Wrestling, which turns into WCW officially, and beyond. So just the WCW Saturday night show, not just Nitro, 30 years. We just got that far with Raw.
That's crazy.
And so that's just crazy to think that when Ted Turner, and I'd heard this long before this book, and I had seen him talk about this years ago, when Ted Turner bought Channel 17 here in Atlanta, he built it on wrestling, Andy Griffith, and the Braves.
Yeah, that's
And
all that
that's
was
why
known.
he had
what a trifecta, man.
That's why he had such an affinity for wrestling, because he knew wrestling brought viewers. And a lot of times, even though they always talked about for years, and in that book they talk about how hard it was to sell advertising and stuff, he always said, I don't care that I can't sell advertising on wrestling. What I'm getting is people who watch wrestling are watching the Braves, where I can sell advertising. The people watching wrestling are now watching Andy Griffith, where I can sell advertising. So they're the gateway. Not unlike Fox later on did with the NFL. They built their entire network because of the NFL. Granted, yes, you can sell advertising on the NFL, but they overpaid for everybody on the NFL to build 90210, to build 21 Jump Street, to build everything else, The Simpsons and
Build
everything
that
else,
network.
because of that network. That's what he built. And if you think about that, here's a dude who took a billboard company, bought one little TV station in Georgia, turned it into a multi-billion-dollar company on the back of wrestling.
That's wild.
And I mean, I know we talk about what Vince did and what Vince's dad did and all that, and I get it. No shade thrown by any stretch. But what Ted did here by giving that platform, he created millionaires. He created stars. I mean, you think about the Horsemen, Flair, Dusty, Arn. You don't have none of them without Ted, without WCW. You don't. Which also means you also now today don't have Cody. You don't have Dustin. You don't have Mysterio. You don't have Seth Rollins. You don't have all these other guys who, what did they say? Rarely do they talk about WWE. They talk about Benoit. They talk about Guerrero. They talk about Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn and the NWO and all of that. Where was that created? WCW. So
Great point.
that's the thing that when you think about where we're at today, and I think this is lost on giving credit to Nitro, giving credit to Bischoff. You think about even the women. When did you thought Bailey, they always talk about Macho Man. Bailey wasn't influenced by Macho Man in the WWE. She was influenced in Macho Man WCW. Look at when she dresses. What does she wear? She wears the stuff he wore in WCW, not in WWE.
That's true.
And it's like the influences today, most of it came from those cruiserweights and the Jerichos and all of them that got their start there. And without Nitro, where are we today? It's just kind of wild to think about. And we talk about Adelaide, you and I talk about Back to the Future. If we could go back and change something here, change something there, just to see what that alternate timeline looks like. If Ted never gives that go ahead for Nitro, where are we as a wrestling community?
It's the flavor of, we never escaped the 80s and the early 90s. Ultimately, we stay with there's got to be some semblance of adjusting to modern culture, because I was already on the forefront. I mean, I know it's funny now because South Park becomes a presence in WWE program at some point, but that was coming down the pipeline. Just that level of kind of anti-authority, anti-program. Stone Cold becomes like the perfect encapsulation of it, and we all wanted to see Goldberg Stone Cold if you were around at that time, right? That was like a cool match. But you're right. I mean, but it begs the point is, and it's going to be the point forever, is competition breeds greatness.
That's
right?
it.
That's going to happen now. Look, we've been hyping up WWE lately because they're hitting on all cylinders. Let's be real. It feels a little bit like AEW a couple years ago. Everybody loves Triple H. Everybody's rah. Everybody's for the team. That's not going to be forever. It can't be. It's not. It's just, that's just not how business is. And once the shine wears off, I'm curious who maybe challenges them. And I don't know if it's an AEW. And I'm curious. History tends to repeat itself. I want to see that. But going back to your point, yeah, it created an outlet for things that were not seen on the other program. Right. For the cruiserweights, to shine. For anyone else who may even just would never get a shot because just Vince had this idea of like, this is the bodies I want. Look, everybody was a big body back then, but it just looks at missed opportunities, and ultimately it was business, it was decisions, it was the selling of AOL Time Warner, and that sale just with the investors. But for me, what I look at WCW, it's going to have a lasting legacy because look, how many people still have careers just in podcasts alone, just talking about a few years of a company's existence.
That's
It's
it.
crazy. It's wild that you can still go to shows and see NWO. It's wild that you can still go places and see Sting shirts. It's wild that you go. I mean, what you just talked about. You think about who runs WWE today, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I joke about the fact that who would have ever thought D-Generation X is going to be running the freaking show?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
who Shawn Michaels' favorite wrestler, Flair.
Yeah.
Triple H's favorite wrestler, Flair.
Yeah.
Road Dogg's whole family, NWA through and through.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that's where they all came from. And when they talk about tag teams, they talk about the rock and roll, they talk about the horsemen. I mean, Evolution was the horseman
That's it.
2.0.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about all these different things, and that's why I sit back and I go, yeah, we saw a lot of crap during the Russo era. We kind of, poke fun tonight about what happened during that time frame. And hey, I give the one thing I gotta give props to Russo on that Bischoff didn't do a good job with. During Russo's time, whether you liked the angles or not, everybody had something.
That's
You
true.
had the filthy animals.
Yeah.
You had the NWO at one point. You had the high, the main eventers. You had the mid cards. You had the lower mid cards. And every single freaking person had a story.
Mhm.
Everybody. Doesn't mean they're all good, but you all had a story. And so there are positives that came out of that, and I think we can learn from it. And I think you're seeing it today. Everybody needs a story. Everybody has something. But no, I'm glad to have. I think right now is the best time ever to be a wrestling fan. I'll argue that all day long. There's so much, whether you love AEW and all the in-ring action and everything that they bring, whether it's New Japan and they're hard hitting, whether it's TNA and what they're doing on to me, it's kind of an underground level. MLW is killing it. Um, uh, how do you pronounce it, Adrian?
Ashe.
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 I mean, you have that. You have GCW and what they're doing. Um, and there's, of course, WWE's on fire. It's not a better time, in my opinion, to be a wrestling fan.
I
But
love it.
man, during that time frame, the Monday Night Wars, the Nitro era, the Attitude era, whatever you want to call it, that was crazy.
Must see TV, man.
I
Jeez.
just I can't fathom when they talk about the ratings and all that stuff. Beyond that, the fact that you could walk in Walmart and buy Stone Cold shirts, Rock shirts, WrestleMania shirts, Goldberg shirts, Sting shirts, NWO shirts, everything at Walmart. Like it was just there. WCW and
Yeah.
WWE stuff. That tells me right there what kind of fire we had.
Well, I'm gonna be a senior citizen one day, waxing nostalgic about back when I was a teenager, guys. Day after Monday Night Raw, man, you should have seen. We didn't care about class. We were just talking wrestling.
All the
Homeroom.
time.
That was it.
That's right. That's
All the
right.
time. All the time. But
Recapping.
man, thank you guys for going down memory lane with me, and indulging in me, having listening to the Nitro book, and I implore everybody go check that book out.
It's
Truly,
fun, man.
truly a wonderful, wonderful listen. I would listen to it in the car for a while. It's a long listen, but it's good. A lot of really good stuff. Really into the weeds on a lot of things. And if you live through that time frame, it's just wild to hear what really happened on the back end. If you love the business of the wrestling business, it's pretty interesting. But thank you guys for going down this memory lane with me. Out of lead, I appreciate it. Adrian, I appreciate it. For you guys and for everybody out there, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please hit that subscribe button. Always follow us on intothebuilding.com. And thank you again for joining us here on Talk'em in the Building. We will see you next time.